Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Ctrl-Alt-Discuss podcast. My name is Tim Patrick, and this is brought to you by the InfraOps Guild. Joining me today is none other than Stu Feeser, the founder of Alta3 Research and our partner and provider of the infrastructure that we use in our classroom, Stu Feeser. Stu, how you doing?
Hey, Tim. Doing great.
Fantastic. So I want to bring you on. This is our very first episode. So this is going to have that weird, awkward first episode sort of.
Not a chance.
How do I do a podcast again? Feeling to it. But in any particular case, we've been working together for the last 3 years and delivering training to a number of different clients over the years. And now we're sort of branching off into new uncharted territory as we begin to focus on individual consumers. And you've partnered with us here at the InfraOps Guild to help provide the infrastructure and the course catalog that would normally be provided to a corporate customer. And this seems a bit insane. So I think the big question is, why would you change the whole game? And then number two, how can people jump in and get started with this? What's Alta3 Research all about?
Well, there's a lot of reasons why, but I think, first of all, the right thing to do for a lot of people is to make training affordable, to put it in the realm of reach. And the market's telling us that this year especially. The price of eggs is up for everyone. And unfortunately, that usually means that training is the first thing to get cut, but it doesn't have to be that way. Ultimately, what has to happen is training needs to be a bit introspective and say, well, really, maybe we need to figure a way to do things much less expensively. Now, it's been well known that you could do the self-paced training, where you sign up maybe for $39 a month, and you get access to the exact same system that you would get if you otherwise had a trainer.
Yeah, but that self-paced thing.
Yeah.
Have you tried that?
Yeah, see, it only works for a category of people.
Sure.
Most people, it's something akin to a gym membership.
Yeah. And so that's been the structure forever. And I think, like, when you talk about doing the self-paced structure, what I struggle with, and tell me if you've ever had this experience, the last one I did was for Certified Kubernetes Security Specialist. And I'm not going to talk too much about that particular course, but I had an experience where I'm watching this, and I already know a lot of the material. I was already CCAT, CK certified, and I'm reading through the instructions, and I'm listening to the videos, and then they say something that I'm like, that's just not correct.
It could be completely wrong.
It was completely wrong, and I feedbacked it, but what is really scary to me is when you have that self-paced approach. How do I, as a student, say, hey, hold up, teach. This doesn't sound right. Where did you get that from?
Yeah.
And you don't get any back and forth. I feedbacked that. Never got a response.
Yeah, that is so. Oh, no. Well, you would if you had a live instructor.
Yeah.
And at that point, you could challenge the live instructor and say, well, wait a minute. I don't think this is right. Now, what's interesting in that case is maybe you're the one that's wrong. It doesn't matter. What matters is that you understand what is right and you get your question asked when it comes right down to it.
Yeah.
So you think something's wrong in some presentation, and ultimately there is no real way to reconcile that. If you're doing the self-paced thing, you send an email. The response, at least with us, is going to come back same day. It could be in the same hour, usually. And Tim, I got to tell you, there's one thing that is universal in this business. I've been doing this for over 30 years, and I taught some classes like 50, 100 times. and I'm in presenting this class, and it is perfect.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong. I'm just confident because the last few times all scores were excellent, says it was just great. And some student, hey, this is wrong on this page. Whoa. Wow. It is wrong.
Yep.
Okay. Now, in fact, at Alta3 Research, we're so confident that there's no such thing as a perfect course.
Mm-hmm.
There's only great teachers, but you have to keep closing in on it. So ultimately, we set it up that oh, wow, I can't believe there's something wrong. Fix it immediately, push it through the pipeline, and 30 seconds later, it's in production and part of the class.
But that feedback loop isn't possible without
without
the
a live
instructor.
But it can't. Right.
Yeah, it can't happen.
Right.
It's what you get. It's what you
No,
get. And
yeah, that's why, which is where your company comes in. So
I brought that up because you were talking about you can sign up for a self-paced course for like $39 a month through another competitor. Sure. And that's the value you're getting. And I wanted to talk about that real quick because I think some people, when they might prefer the self-paced nature of things, which is perfectly acceptable and fine, but there is that missing feedback loop. So that's what competitors are doing to get you back on track. What's Alta3 doing to change the game?
Yeah, so that's what we're doing. That I don't think it's actually existing anywhere. So if you start building and said, well, we need a class that is so debugged that it survives really well in a self-paced environment, and that is not easy to do. And you and I are in full agreement. The only way to actually get a course to the point of this thing is pretty reasonably debugged is you teach it live at least 10 times. And every time you teach it, there'll be something wrong somewhere, but it gets to be more and more trivial. By the 10th time, it's actually running pretty cleanly. But at that stage, the price tag is completely out of reach for anybody who wants to self-train. So you say, well, what am I going to do? Am I going to buy this $39 package? I can't ask questions. Even if you have an AI helper in there, which can help a bunch, you can't really challenge AI. You can get it to squeeze some things out. But if you bring an instructor in, right, here's what Alta3 Research did that I think is really going to change things is the ability to bring your own instructor. So you can take a highly qualified individual, a really great teacher, and allow the teacher to contract directly with the students. The prices go from $3,000 to $250. There is that much margin compression when you go through all the middleman, and this changes all that.
Yeah.
So what this does in this particular case, Tim, is you can offer the same product that would sell for a lot more, arguably taught exactly when students want it. You're running something in the evening. It's perfect.
Yeah.
You certainly can do that. Not only that, but you can run it to smaller classes, to smaller groups, because the overhead component's not there. But if we want to include Alta3, then what does Alta3 get out of this? Well, lots. One, you are exposing our product to your customers, and we think that's great. But every time you teach a class live, every single time, somewhere, you'll find a chink in the armor. I don't know where it is, but you'll find it.
Oh, yeah.
And ultimately, you will expose this to people who really do want to learn, and now they can afford it. I'll say one more thing along that line. Once a live instructor has walked a person through the material, so you know where to click, you know how to move through the content, and you don't have to think so much about the platform almost disappears. You don't even see it anymore.
Yeah.
You just see what you need to learn. And I do believe that happens with a lot of practice and the live instructor. So if you're wondering why is Alta3 doing this? Because there's a lot of reasons. Not only is it the right thing to do. I love the idea of bringing customer directly to the teacher, get the middleman out of the way.
Yeah.
The overhead that we add is almost zero.
Fantastic. I mean, so the other thing too, you got to bear in mind, I was looking at, what can I do as an instructor? What is full-time? If I were to sell every single seat in every single course that I could sell within a given year, I would get roughly 900 students a year, 1,800 if I decided to run 2 classes simultaneously in a week. So say, for example, I had a 2 to 5 class and a 7 to 10 class. So
I hope you do.
Yeah, wouldn't that be great? But that's only 1,800 students when you think about it. If I were to go full time, and that's how we did business. How many people are actively applying for IT jobs? And I was looking at some really interesting statistics. So for every LinkedIn application that gets put out there that has that easy apply button, maybe you've seen that or you know what I'm talking about,
right,
you're going to get about 2,000 applicants within the first day of that being out there. And these are for DevOps jobs, CI/CD, infrastructure as code jobs. You're dealing with Ansible, Terraform. You're a systems engineer. That's just
good paying jobs.
Great jobs. I mean, you're talking 6-figure salaries.
Yep.
Anywhere between the 120 to 165 area, I think, is about, and you're getting 2,000 people a day clicking on that easy apply. The big thing is, well, how does a company decide who's the best qualified candidate? Standard form resume, that actually comes down to it. But the next thing is well, certifications, training, and that sort of thing. And how do I weed out the cream of the crop from a talent pool of 2,000 applicants a day? And so to me, that tells me that we have an audience or a demand of people in need of training, of qualification, credential, and as a training institution, we can provide said credentials. You come to the class, you'll get a certificate of completion and along a bunch of other things. And not only that, but the way that we're trying to work things here at the Guild is we're trying to say, hey, you're part of a community. If you're on a job hunt or you need a reference, we can provide that. And if you have questions or you're having trouble with a particular problem at work, we can help with that. It's not just you took a class and you're gone.
Yeah.
It's you're now part of a community of people to kind of help you through it. So in my mind, there is a significant demand for training products and not enough supply. And that might be how we ended up with the $2,500, $3,000 price tag and the boot camps and the whole nine. So if you're sitting here and you're somebody who maybe needs a refresher, maybe needs some training, how does an Alta3 option, whether it's through a bring your own instructor like myself or your new product, Alta3 Academy, how can a person get started if they're not sure where to begin or how much money to spend or what's going on and how can we help them?
Well, at the price point where you're at, they should just contact Tim and take a class. That's at the $250 range. That for a live instructor-led, that's a no-brainer. But the product that we offer, if you're one of those people that have the ability to just drive yourself through and do self-paced training, the Alta3 Academy is that's for sure. But it doesn't have to stop there.
So I pulled up the website. You should be able to see that.
Yep.
There
you go.
Alta3.com, ALTA3.com. And there's this big banner here, Alta3 Academy.
Yeah, and if you click on it, it actually takes you to the Academy landing page, right, where it talks about why choosing the Academy.
Yeah, and that's
just for the record, Tim, this is the same product. we might as well just lay this out right now.
Oh yeah.
Let's unconfuse people and click on courses and just go over to just the regular classes, and you'll see what appears to be not academy courses. In fact, I would argue that the academy courses in here are an absolute most refined version of our courses, but it's not all of them, Tim. We have about 70 courses and another 100 that are behind the scenes that people call for custom stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
But these are the ones that are pretty much bulletproof, and we offer them in the academy. But I think what everyone listening to this podcast should understand is Tim can teach all of them. So while it might be interesting to take the self-paced training, if you can schedule live instructor, the results are definitely going to get better.
Oh yeah.
Whenever you have a live instructor, they force you to be there at a certain time and to go through it at a certain pace and get the best results. So that's the academy courses that you see right there. And if anyone would care to say, wow, you know what? I think I could teach this at my organization. It is possible to do that. You can become an instructor. Now, while the cost isn't real high to do that, you do have to sign a contract and agree to be similar to what Tim is doing. And you too could present this stuff. We expect that this will actually ignite in at least 3 different areas. Colleges and universities need to understand that if they graduate people with certifications that are well known in the industry, those students are going to do a lot better when they hit the job market. They'll do massively better. I got to tell you this story, if you don't mind me just going down a little
please
back alley.
Yeah,
here.
no. Let's hear the story.
He was, I felt like he was 19. Right? I think he was just 21, maybe 22. And he said, "Oh, Stu, I'm embarrassed. I mean," he said, "You have a degree in you have a degree in education and actually a graduate in engineering. I don't have a degree in anything. I have a high school degree." And I said, "You're an engineer. You have a really high paying job." "Oh yeah, I'm doing well. I own 3 houses." You have 3 houses? "Yeah, mortgage is paid on one of them." Like, wait a minute. "And the other 2 are rentals?" "Yep, I have these old cars, but they're all paid for." And I'm like, listen, you have clearly figured out how to make a great living in America, and that's get all the certifications, be amazingly good at what you do. And this guy is in training a lot. He does have the ability to read like a sponge and pick up things, but it was just incredible. And I basically said, "Buddy, you are the wind beneath my wings. That is incredible. I'm going to tell that story to everyone that I run into, because ultimately the courses that Tim's talking about are really a 3-credit semester course that can really be taught in a week. Now, if you want the certification for it, you're going to study a few more weeks after that, but that's definitely the way to go. So the other place in colleges and universities would be this, I think, could be used in large organizations where an engineer wants to teach the people they work with, but they don't have the time to write the content or present it. But the academy, in the hands of a teacher like Tim, is incredible. But in the hands of someone who's just articulate, it's going to be an acceptable presentation, right? So there's that. That's basically the nickname we refer to as "bring your own instructor."
Yeah.
Although the people that we would prefer to engage are seasoned instructors like yourself, Tim, who have a proven track record in the classroom, because ultimately the class is going to be no better than the teacher. So and that's critical.
Oh yeah.
So we saw this as probably if anything ignites Alta3 research is this: bring your own instructor. The ability to use really high quality content evenings, nights, second shift, whatever. And that means direct work with the instructor themselves, get all the middlemen out of the way.
So, you hit on a really good point. And I have been in that hiring manager position before. I have had to do interviews, and I've had to work with people and try to figure out, hey, are they a good fit for my team? And when you're going through that process, we're going to ask questions. We're going to ask questions about, hey, what do you know? One of the things I like to ask questions about is, what's your degree in? Can you talk about that? And then, what are your certifications? Can you talk about that? And what was really alarming to me when I was doing that type of work, how many candidates I would interview, and you would ask them a few questions about their certifications, and they couldn't tell you a single thing about it.
Yeah.
And so it's tough because, from where I'm sitting at, I ended up hiring people who on paper probably were not as qualified as some of the other candidates, but it's because of what I can talk about. What can you give to that discussion? And that's so important. So you hit on, get the degree, fantastic. Don't necessarily need it. But the important thing is you gotta have a credential that says, hey, I am certified on this particular subject. And you got to be able to back it up through skills, and you got to be able to back it up through being able to talk and communicate. And so you could be self-paced. You take your test, you pass it, and then what do? You forget it. A lot of people do that. And I think the reason why that happens, especially back in the day when I was a hiring manager 10 years ago, we would have an issue where you get the people who go through these certification mills. They get their cert, but it was a multiple choice, and they've never actually had hands-on with what it was they were certified in. And the thing that makes Alta3 courses so good, and as such, InfraOps Guild courses so good, is that these are entirely hands-on. So you're not only getting the live instructor in the room, but now you're also getting the hands-on. I'm actually putting keystrokes to keyboard, navigating through a real Linux file system, spinning up actual Kubernetes clusters using Ansible playbooks, doing actual operations in a learning environment. That's just invaluable. And when you compare this to something like a competitor product where you might be getting self-paced courses, do they provide the environment? Oftentimes, no.
Yeah, that's just, or it's an environment that's almost filled out and it just needs one more command or something. Yeah. And it's like, it's not the way the real world's going to be. Like, here's your blank Linux screen.
Yeah.
Welcome to the real world. And you know very well, that's our system is predicated on that. Mm-hmm. You sit down with real screen and you have to build it from scratch. The students always react really well to hands-on. I have a theory as to why that works.
Sure.
Like educationally wise. It's almost impossible to watch videos and get any kind of expertise from that. You'll pick up a few odds and ends, but you don't watch your way into a certification. You actually have to do the hands-on stuff. But I think educationally what happens is when you're using your hands and you're thinking, what do I do next to solve some sort of a problem? The pace of thought is matched with how fast your hands move, which, by the way, is in lockstep. And you wind up with a phenomenally effective way to teach people. And I just think it's because you're firing just about all your brain, hands-on, make and do stuff. You're absolutely riveted on the screen, like, what happens next when I do this? If it works, great. There's always a rush. If it doesn't work, that, whoa, what went wrong here? And sometimes it's the errors that actually teach you the most. I love
it when something breaks.
Yeah, me too.
It's the best. No,
Oh, yes.
Students are always so afraid to when they break something or something's not working correct. They're like, oh, geez, oh, man, hey, teach, I got a problem.
Oh, yeah.
And I love it. I'm like, oh, let's take a look, everybody. But
Right.
and the reason why, and I hope students don't get too bothered when I say, hey, something's busted, let's go take a look. That is not a moment of shame. That is a moment
Not
of
at all.
exploration. That's a moment of learning. Right. And everybody is super invested every single time something busts, especially when it's on my end. And I'm actively teaching and something goes
riveted.
nuts.
Yeah.
The best part of the class is just that, which is another thing that you lose in the self-paced, which, by the way, we'll talk about self-paced because you have a self-paced product. We'll talk about that. But that's something else you lose in self-paced is that it's no longer a collaborative learning experience. It's all on you. So when someone else makes a mistake or the teacher runs into a problem, you don't get that opportunity to then watch the troubleshooting steps to figure out what went wrong, why it was wrong, and how to recover.
There you go. In fact, when it happens to me, I've presented some courses so many times, I could recalculate a mortgage. Watching from out of body, watching myself give the lecture, and I'm thinking, whoa, this is weird. I'm actually holding two thoughts while I'm making this extremely coherent explanation of what it is I'm describing, right? Mm-hmm. But every now and then something goes wrong. And every single time, my response, what's always shocks the students is, it doesn't work. Oh, thank goodness. That is something to fix. This was getting boring. And I embrace it every single time. And of course, the students are there right there beside me when this happens as we go ahead and fix it. Yeah, that positivity will never happen in a self-paced. However, I will give you one example, I believe, of where self-paced really works. In fact, it exceeded my expectations. I never saw it coming. In fact, it was what drove me to this. You've been teaching for a while, but when you bring a newbie in who maybe knows the content, but they've never taught it, they don't know how. Adding the self-paced components, which labs that just work, add the videos that explain, get their very best teachers to present the material right. Instructors do extremely well in self-paced. I think it's because they're so worried, I have to teach this. I'm going to watch that video, and I'm going to make sure I know if something happens, especially to teachers, which also made me think, well, wait a minute. We originally did this. We added all this content, one, so we wouldn't have to record the lectures so students to see it, and also to train our trainers. Mm-hmm. What came out was, hey, this is a pretty effective self-paced training platform. If you add AI to it, I'll tell you what it really is, Tim. What it really is an unbelievably effective train the trainer program. Yeah. So if we make this available to people who want to teach, but you could never build a platform like we have. Right now, it would take millions of dollars to build this platform. It is at least in its 17th or 18th release.
Yeah,
that's right. And to this day, every time some student finds a flaw, I'm just like, how?
It's odd too, because you get a chance to talk to a lot of folk. And one of the most consistent feedbacks that we get is, hey, the platform didn't get in the way.
No.
This was very smooth. I was in and on the environment without any issues. And I can't tell you how many times, you're taking a class somewhere and it's the platform that kind of just got in your way.
Oh, yeah.
And the other thing, too, that I think is very different about the Alta3 platform is that there are no guardrails. You're getting an actual box. Man. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, it's a real Linux root access, real Linux system, right? Yeah, for sure. And you mean just like you would see if you went to work, and that was intentional.
I mean, I prototype so much stuff in Alta3 environments. I was actually spinning up, I can't remember the name of this product, but it was serverless Kubernetes. I started running serverless Kubernetes out of the Alta3 platforms and playing around, which is a lot of fun.
Mm-hmm. Well, one of the things that our students recently asked us, and I'm not going to do it. Well, maybe, but I don't want to. They said, "Hey, we want these environments to spin up in like 30 seconds." I said, "No, that's going to be 8 to 10 minutes."
Mm-hmm.
Why? I said, "Well, okay, because we are a DevOps training company, and we want to actually build the environment that you're going to work on from scratch. So we bring in the latest of the overnights, load all the appropriate software on top of it, and we do that." Literally running the CI/CD pipeline to build the student environment that ultimately is going to be their basis for taking the course. So you'll sit through a 10-minute bootstrap process, but then that's it. Anytime you come in to access the platform thereafter, it's instantaneous access. And as soon as we explain that to the students, they're like, "Oh, wow, access is instant." I said, "Well, we never turned it off. When you access the environment, it just keeps running." So, and by the way, and oh, by the way, if one student actually said, "But can I access it at home? And then when I go to my son-in-law's house, I could get on their computer?" And I said, "Yeah, just log in. It doesn't know that it would be happy. Just don't forget your password, or you're going to reset it." And that was the end of that, right? So just add up all those things. It's a really good train the trainer program, which means it makes sense in self-paced. It's incredibly good for actually bring your own instructor. And what you're doing is the ultimate vision's goal, which is to let instructors deal directly with students. And at the end, they have the residual of the self-paced course that they can follow up with, because now it all makes sense to them. You've explained it.
Yeah. And you can even get started, which is sort of what I'm going to be recommending to any student who comes through any of the InfraOps Guild classes. And that is, look, we're going to get you started. You're going to come in, you're going to take, maybe it's Linux for absolute beginners. That's the course that we're kind of pushing right now, trying to get people who are coming in brand new to Linux. I have one gentleman who's a wounded veteran coming in soon, so I'm really excited about that. Cool. I have another one who's a truck driver. So we're dealing with folk who just have never really seen command line, but they're ready to engage with it and work with it and develop a new trade, new skill, and do some new things. Once you get started with me, what I'm going to be encouraging all of my students to do, and I'm going to put us back here on the screen share, is you need to jump on in and check out Alta3 Academy and keep your environment, because what we're ultimately moving towards is the ability for you to teach yourself. And when you need instructor or you want instructor, you can get that affordably as well. So with the Alta3 Academy, you spend $39 a month and you get the self-paced courses with the video tutorials. You get all the hands-on labs. But the most important thing that you get, in my mind, is you get that environment that you can spin up on demand whenever you want. It's yours. So the way it works is you click on in and you say, "Hey, I want to take this class," and then it puts you in a side-by-side view of the lecture and lab material on the left and then your terminal window on the right. Yep. And it spins up that environment whenever you want. And this is, I'm going to encourage something, Stu, that maybe you'd be like, "Well, hold on, maybe don't tell them this." But look, I cannot tell you how many times I have went ahead and just prototyped something that I was curious about on an Alta3 environment. Like, I just wanted to see if I could get this to work. And then sometimes that turns into a lab. So I think one time you had asked me, "Hey, we want to get AWX, an Ansible Tower instance running on a Kubernetes cluster, and we need this lab written before the end of the day. We had never done that before. So within maybe about an hour, I had gotten the Kubernetes cluster up and running. I got an AWX up and running, installed and working and running playbooks in a matter of about an hour, hour and a half.
Right.
So imagine you have that challenge at work. Hey, we need to spin up Ansible Tower on Kubernetes. Nothing's stopping you from loading up a Kubernetes environment and running a playbook and then see if you can get it to work.
Well, actually, nothing's stopping you from taking the Ansible course to learn how to do it. Then once you have that, okay, now I'm going to hop over here. I'm going to replicate this in Kubernetes. Nothing's stopping you.
Exactly.
But if you're that serious, I would go for the annual.
Oh, yeah.
I want to say about 20% of our purchases are actually annual.
Oh, wonderful.
And anybody who knows us, they would never buy the monthly. They just said, oh, annual, no brainer. Because we just keep putting content. Probably what your subscribers need to know is that we've only put our most popular courses that we've taught so many times that they're just bulletproof in the academy. But the Security Plus is coming. AWS is coming. The Azure, these are all certification courses are coming. Yeah. So that by the time an annual would expire, the top 10 certifications in America will actually be part of the academy. We're not actually. Oh, plus there's a lot of AI stuff in there.
Oh, yeah.
We didn't even touch that. I should. Since I just mentioned it, if you don't mind me going down that
No, we can go down that road. Let's hit it.
Well, what's interesting in our platform is we are AI engineers anyhow. In fact, you were there when we first rolled out our first
it's open source generative AI.
Yeah, we took the latest meta model when no one could even spell it, right? And we
much
had it
less
running
run it,
on
but yeah.
Yeah. on Llama C++.
Mm-hmm.
But it was pretty tedious to deploy. We wrote a playbook to get it deployed, but it worked wonderfully. And I just have kind of two things to say. Once we saw how it works, and I said to our developer, you know what? All we have to do is take the content that we're working on, whatever that is, say a lab that a student's working on, for instance, and then we take the question that the student asks, and then drop a few more things, capture all this with a Python script, and just feed that in as a prompt into the AI, and I will never forget the response. No way, Stu, it couldn't be that simple. I said, oh, but yes, it is that simple.
Yeah.
Now, yeah, but nobody even knew what RAG was back then. They had no idea. Like, I feel like we invented it.
Well,
right?
Hey, retrieval augmented generation. It's what it stands for.
Yes,
and it's
exactly.
when we are going to bring hard data into the context window of a given prompt.
Right.
But then we can start dissecting, well, what's in a prompt? Because it's a lot more than what you type.
Well, that's in the generative class, right? But
right. But these are things that I have to talk to people all the time about because they ask me. I do a lot of weird things with AI, Stu. I write, I have a whole Dungeons and Dragons campaign that has been written with AI assistance, and you'd be shocked by what this thing produces. But
I would not, and I'm to the point now where I have multiple AI models running. I have my little favorite pet one for whatever it is I'm going to do. But if I finish, what we do that's different in our platform that I think is critical is when a student is working on a specific lab and they hop into our AI, which we call Virgil, from Dante's Inferno, right? The guy, the guardian, or the guy that journeys gets you safely through the Inferno. But whatever the case, Virgil, when you ask it a question, the difference between our platform, and I suspect anyone else's, is that we'll take the question you've asked. We also know because we're running in Vue. So we also know on the front end which lab you're working on. Therefore, we can grab all those lab instructions. But here's the real cool thing. We have at least the last 10 prompts that you typed, not prompts, the things you Linux command line stuff. Yeah, right. The Linux history. Exactly. So we feed that in. So when a student says, hey, that didn't work, I believe ours is the only AI that would say, well, okay, I would normally be confused, but I see your last command was this. I see you're working on this lab, and that command that you think you typed was this, but you mistyped it. So, by the way, here's what you did that was wrong. And the thing is, I thought those students would say, wow, that's so cool. But they're like, yeah, that's how it should work, right? And I thought, yeah. I thought, you know what? You're right. That is the way it should work.
For anyone who's doing a bring your own instructor, Virgil's there for their classes as well.
I was just going to say, if you're afraid of being a teacher because the students are, you're not like Tim. You've been teaching me that the students probably aren't going to stump you. They won't stump Virgil. You won't. In fact, I just for fun, I'll break out Virgil sometimes just to say, well, let's see what the AI thinks. I will give them the answer, right? Just to basically maintain dominance.
Of course.
And then let's see what Virgil. And every single time, Virgil will outgun me. Now, don't get me wrong. That we're in total agreement. It rarely did I say something wrong, right? But Virgil does it, wow, so elegantly. So like, geez, this is nuts. But I would use the right prompt. Virgil's smooth as silk, right? And it actually, I've used Virgil already. It said, I think this step is wrong. I said, yep, this is. You should be doing this. I thought, wow. Weren't you around to help me write this in the first place? How do we get to this point that now you know it's wrong? But whatever the case, that piece, we added that because we know some people are going to teach this material who actually they are not omniscient on the subject matter. And Virgil would just fill in that pothole.
Yeah, that's actually something that I was meaning to bring up earlier too. When I first got into this business, I was in IT in general. I was really young when I started learning. I was still in high school, and I remember being very frustrated with my father because he was constantly studying. And my mom,
I know your dad
was a systems administrator.
Yep.
And she was constantly studying.
Yeah.
And so it became a great point of frustration from time to time as a kid, just always seeing, aren't you guys done learning? Ain't you learn everything you're supposed to be? Like, what's going on? Didn't you go through college? Like what? Why are you spending so many hours after hours working on these certifications? And I remember being very frustrated about it. But now getting involved in doing training and certification work myself, it becomes something that I think a lot of folk don't anticipate when they first jump into this particular field, and that is you are always going to be learning because the new tech and the new tools and the new processes, etc., they just become, they're just so new and so different. You're always studying, and it can become a great point of stress.
Yeah.
In your after-hours study.
You better align yourself with someone that you trust to keep you current.
Exactly.
Yeah. And the truth is, not to drive any potential customers away, but
sure, teachers
don't always get it right.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Books, they not get it right.
Books are also what you get, it's what you got. And once it's in print, it's out.
Yeah, there's no fixing it, right?
Yep.
But Tim, the command line never lies.
Yeah.
It just never lies. And if what you write survives the command line experience, it's right. And that's why we insist on using hands-on everywhere. You have to be really good. Understanding concepts, it's not so much what I know. When it comes right down to it, it's look what I can do. And that will manifest in a great payday. You'll make a great living if you can do cool stuff.
Yeah. But that takes study. Lots of study.
Yeah, and practice.
Yeah.
Right. And maybe I could finish up with just one thing. It's late in life. I'm 69.
Yeah.
I'd like to say that I don't look like it, right? But
sure.
Whatever the case, yeah. But whatever the case, I got told by my daughter in no uncertain terms that you need to straighten out your attitude. You have to start working out because obviously she's my daughter. She knows me well,
mm-hmm.
And that was 5 months ago. And you'd say, what does personal fitness have to do with study? Well, other than you can study a whole lot better if you're fit. But what Hillary said to me next was monumental. Don't try to do it on your own. Hire a trainer. You can do it. Just hire a trainer. Unbelievable, Tim. It's in 5 months now. In fact, friends are saying, you look different.
Yeah.
Like, oh yeah. I have what's called beginner's muscles. Where it's like your body's starting to shake at 69 years old.
Yeah.
And I remember talking to Meredith, my trainer. It's like, I figured 69 years old. This is the way it's going to be. Oh no, you get all the way to your 80s. Stay fit. And I said, and then and there I said, I will always hire a trainer if I can do it. Because the self-paced, the gym membership.
Yeah.
Well, I did that for a little while. Hated it. First of all, I went. I just hated it.
I've been there.
And
then you get the gym membership and you never use it. There's that too.
No, I used it, but now I'm so spoiled that I go in and think, you guys, you're doing this all wrong. It's like, what do I know? I've only been doing this for 5 months, but I knew more than some of them. And I'm not giving I don't want to give, this sounds like I'm giving myself credit. No, I'll give Hillary full credit, and my trainer's amazing. And it's worth it. I think the same thing happens in your studies. But what we've never been able to do is actually have a teacher like Tim available at $250 a whack. That's unheard of.
That's pretty wild. Because it's so many things. I want to get back to your trainer though, because you touch on something that's very important. Because I'm the type who would go to the gym without a trainer, and I did it very successfully for a couple of years, and then I fall off the wagon, and I got to rework myself. Right. Going back and get it back in my routine. But there's something about having that trainer that now you're consistent and you keep going back, because that's
what it is.
It's the fact that you have someone motivating you, making sure you're going in the right direction, but then you have someone who, hey, it's not that you're seeking their approval necessarily, but you have someone to show you progress to, who's tracking that and who's maintaining the metrics and saying, hey, a week or two ago you were doing X, Y, and Z, and today you're doing A, B, and C, which is just a phenomenal motivator.
Without a doubt.
We talked about this idea a long time ago when people were saying, well, hey, now the radio's coming out, maybe kids don't need teachers anymore. They could just have them listen to the radio. Or, when TV happened, hey, we don't need teachers anymore. Just have them watch the movie. But somehow instructors keep coming back. And then no matter what it is, whether it's TV, radio, today it's AI. And the place of the instructor is still there. That position still exists. And what studies have shown time and time again is that instructor-based training is significantly more successful than
Absolutely.
And I don't know if you wanted to talk to that for a little bit.
There's almost no comparison. It's that effective. Having an instructor driving you is really an important thing, but probably not why you think. Learning is a social experience. It's not the info dump that the teacher provides. Because TV and radio, closed circuit, I mean, all these CDs, remember those?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, the video professor, the VHS, it was unbelievable. And these could be like really good, highly edited presentation. It's not like a live instructor, because truly effective learning is social. It's not just the teacher, it's you and everyone else that in the classroom that makes the difference. And that comes with a live instructor. I do believe that you can mix in some self-paced then after that.
Yeah.
And yeah, because it's, I mean, when I go into a gym now, I know what to do.
Mm-hmm.
I'd be afraid otherwise. I knew exactly what to do. In fact, part of the frustration was I would see other people and I'm like, that's not even close to the right way to find. I just, trust me, I don't say anything. Who am I? But I'm like, oh goodness. So, teaching. In fact, Veritasium, one of my favorite YouTubers, he had a really old presentation on. Basically, the topic was, I wish I had a nickel for every time somebody said education is going to change forever, because Marconi, radio is going to replace, then TV is going to replace all the things you said. Yeah. No, and it still won't. AI is coming close, but I think what AI really does is train the trainer.
Yeah, that's something too, because I've talked to people about this, and I've actually said, like, look, we have to learn before we can teach. And when there's something new on market and it's a tool that now everyone's trying to adapt and to include into their workflows, we have to learn it right away. Then we have to write a class, and then we have to teach it. And by the way, no one's here training us because we're the trainers, and Alta3 Research has research in the name for a reason. We have to research this new stuff. We have to figure it out. We don't have anyone kind of waiting in the wings. And so I have found a very effective methodology that helps me study and learn new stuff using AI. And I've tried actually talking to other people about this, like, hey, you could do X, Y, and Z, you could do that. Here's what I do. And they say, yeah, this just doesn't work for me.
Yeah.
The AI just doesn't talk to me the way it talks to you. I don't know why. And so I find that oftentimes, more often than not, to be people's general response. And it's because of what you said.
Yeah.
Learning is a social experience. Mm-hmm. And as much as and as helpful as AI can be, it's not the same thing as talking or working with a live instructor.
Right. Nothing like it.
At the end of the day.
Yeah, I don't know if that ever is going to change. But teachers are in the category of highly motivated to know the content.
Yeah.
And they tend to be pretty good students when they're getting ready to do the presentation. But I got to tell you, probably the last thing left to be said here.
Yeah.
There is nothing like learning when you have to teach it.
That's so true.
I mean, if you really want to know it, if you want to know it cold, and don't be selfish, teach.
Yeah.
Take us up with it, just like Tim's doing. Teach the topic. I've been an engineer for a long time, and I've had moments in the class where I went, oh. And of course, the students like, what? Unfortunately, it was something that was way out there, and it's right. I think I'll tell you what. I'll make a deal.
Okay.
At 4:30 today, at the end of class, I'll explain this epiphany that I just had. But nothing like teaching to learn.
Oh yeah. I'm going to give you an opportunity here I was trying to do it earlier. Talk about Alta3 Academy, what you're spending, what you're getting, and because when you first showed this to me, and this is after years of doing it the other way, I thought this was insane.
Yeah.
To be completely honest.
Right.
Because as of now, there's 14 classes. By the end of the year, several more.
Well, yeah, a lot more.
I didn't want to throw a number out there.
No, lots more.
Lots more.
Yeah.
Lots more in the pipe. And
yeah, but they're going to be courses that have huge value. Courses that will put you in the top certification, right?
Yeah.
We'll put a few courses that'll keep you in there. Some really nice AI courses and Jenkins and other little edge things that. But normally the real attracting forces would be the certifications that will get you a bigger paycheck.
Yeah.
That's what's going to go in here. But what surprised you? I know the answer, but
it's the price.
Yeah.
It's because like there are other subscriptions out there, right? But they don't typically include the environment. And we were talking about that earlier. And for $299 a year, which, if I'm not mistaken, the Monday AI said that the price for somebody else's like 1 week of premium nonsense is, is what it said.
Yeah.
But for a very, very low price, you're getting the 14 classes, but then you're going to be giving more classes. So when new classes come out, you're subscribed, you get those classes immediately.
Right.
So it's a subscription that gains value over time. So whether you're using the subscription to learn one of the existing 14 classes, to spin up a prototype environment, to run something new, maybe you're experimenting. That's what I do all the time. Maybe we are now there's a new class. It's a subscription that isn't stagnant in value. It's going to continue having more added to it. So if you're sitting there like, well, I don't know if I could save money if I'm invested in doing this for a year for $299. But who's to say I won't consume all that content within maybe 3 or 4 months? There is the expectation of more content coming in the future.
So I'm looking up, because I forget what an 8 gig AWS system is, for instance.
Yeah.
Like M3 or something. Mm-hmm. And is my little AI buddy going to remember? 2 CPUs, a T4G medium, Tim.
Okay.
That's pretty big. 2 virtual CPUs, 8 gig of RAM, AWS Graviton 2 processor, network up to 5 gigabits per second. 5 gigabits. We never go any lower than 10.
Yeah.
And it's like I look through here and I think, that our platform is real. It's there's a lot of beef every time you spin up an environment, and we don't spin it down. Right. So yes, we will build it for you scratch as soon as you come in, just for you, all the latest software. And with a click of the button, you can delete it. Okay, you're gonna have to sit through another 10-minute rebuild again. But the truth is, I don't think students have any idea how beefy of an environment is actually spinning up. And so, and that appears on the right side of the screen. On the left side are all the labs that theoretically just work. Incredibly, students still find flaws here and there, but we hop on it immediately. But and it surprises us every time. Like, this can't be.
Yeah.
But every now and then. But it's always our very best students that do that, and it's like we're thrilled. Oh, Steve is in this. Is great. He'll find something somewhere, but a lot of times he doesn't. But whatever the case, the Virgil was in there. The AI component to answer the context sensitive questions, and a video of our best instructors actually presenting the content. So if you're going to be a train the trainer type person, there is an example of how to teach the content, but ultimately it's the hands-on that really brings it home.
Oh, yeah.
What else can be said? Well, you get tired, you go to bed, you do whatever, you get up the next day. It is right there. There's no wait for the boot up. It's running exactly where you left it off. We don't shut it down, which is unheard of in the industry. This is designed. It's missing a zero in the price.
Yeah,
that shouldn't be a course. Yeah, a course should be in the $3,000 range. It's just that we looked at this and we thought, well, wait a minute. We're all DevOps engineers. Let's just practice what we preach.
Yeah.
Let's actually build these systems out and let the students access them.
And so you make a big point. You've been saying this a lot. We do not turn off the machine. So what that means is, and this is what you're oftentimes going to have problems with when you are working on somebody else's platform, is you spin up a machine, you're working on prototyping something, you got to go to bed. And instead of waking up and having to rebuild a brand new machine all over again, and then you'd have to redo all the steps to get to where you were. So you're talking anywhere from a 10-minute lead-up time just to build the machine, and then an additional 20 to 30 minutes of getting back to where you were, assuming you don't make a mistake and that you get all your notes right. You're still working at 45 minutes to an hour of just getting back to where you were. But we don't turn the machine off. So whatever steps that you did, we were taking the Kubernetes self-paced class. I had to get my Kubernetes cluster up and built. If you're taking CKA, you're working with kubeadm directly. CCAD, you'll be doing an Ansible playbook that'll get it for you up in 8 minutes, but you get the idea. I don't have to go through the process of resetting up everything again.
Yep.
At the same time, you have the leisure to kill it and build a new one.
Students like that.
Yeah. Say I am doing CKA, and I want to practice the kubeadm setup steps several times because that's on the certification.
Yeah.
So you could do that too.
Yeah. Just delete it. Go get a cup of coffee. When you come back, it's all built, and just practice it again. Replicating what we have, it's in its 15th iteration. If it may be more like 20th, we lost count. Replicating what we have is extremely hard. But I know that if you compare us to others although they don't have machines that never turn off, they do offer some hands-on stuff. But the price tag for those is around $100 a month. And that's with the AI component. We're 1/3 of that.
Yeah.
So it's a little more than that, but 38% of that. It's phenomenal, right? For guys like you that add value add to come in and teach, that adds an all new wrinkle.
And not to mention time. I mean, I have a lot of friends who are in IT, and they always tell me, man, I'd love to come in and sit in one of your classes, but my company doesn't want to pay for it, and it's running during working hours, so I can't take it because I'm not going to take a week of vacation on top of spending $2,500 to take a class. So now we kind of tear down those barriers of entry. And you can actually bring people in to teach a class whenever you'd like, whenever it's convenient. Or for us, 7 to 10 in the evening, because we recognize people are working. We can't teach a class during the day. I don't want you having to take a week of vacation to go take a class. You're already paying for it as it is. Opportunity cost is what it is. Alta3 Academy. Just want to plug it real quick. Fantastic product. I use these machines all the time, whether I'm building and developing a course, whether I'm prototyping something new, maybe I'm trying to learn something like serverless Kubernetes. I spin these up all the time. So not only are you getting the courses, the 14 of them with more to come, But then you're also getting that environment, and you're getting the video learning series for all those courses. Really big deal for $299 a year. And I want to let you all know, because I moonlight as a coupon fairy, that you can take 10% off of that price on checkout with the coupon code BDUBS. That's BDUBZ. There you go. Fully plugged. I got one more thing I wanna talk about, and we're about an hour into this. It's always envisioned these being about an hour to an hour and a half. On the Ctrl-Alt-Discuss podcast, this is fun. I think I like that name. We settled on it like literally minutes before we went live. And that is the value of Linux training. I came out with a series of 10 incredibly annoying shorts where I'm just selling the concept of learning Linux. But I did that because Linux is the foundation of just about everything we do in IT today. And I wanted to know what your thought was on Linux, or maybe those individuals who have never stepped into IT. Maybe those who've been in IT for a while, but they're a little scared of the command line. We meet a lot of those. What's the value in Linux command line knowledge as someone who's been teaching IT for forever?
Linux is incredible.
Oh.
It is at the heart of everything we do. My standard battle cry is that deploying Linux was the second best decision in my life, which always begs the question: well, then what was the best decision you ever made? That was to delete Windows, right?
Oh. I thought you were going to say marry my wife. That's where my mind went. But
that would be. But in the context of this discussion, Linux made Alta 3. We do everything Linux. It's phenomenal. I wouldn't want to do it any other way. I don't care what flavor. Honestly, there's so little difference from it's Ubuntu, the Debian derivatives of all sorts, Red Hat, SUSE. That doesn't matter to us. It is phenomenal, and it's the heart of everything. So if you have an opportunity to add Linux to your skill set, I don't mean to be condescending, but where have you been? You aren't going to advance to the next level without Linux. Linux pretty much does everything.
Yeah.
It's owned the DevOps platform like forever. And if you look at all the top billionaires, every one of them are running Linux. Every one of them.
Yeah.
No brainer.
I remember the story my dad told me, and before he was retired, and he's an old command line junkie. He's the reason why I know command line. And he was, he's on his way out the door. He's retiring soon, and he's in one of those wonderful maintenance positions where, hey, we just need you to keep the thing you built running. Okay, great job. Best thing to do in a retirement. Just maintain it, patch it, make sure it's still running, and answer questions as things come along the way. And, you get one of those junior hotshot developers who says, we're going to introduce a new feature, put it out there, drops it into production, and busts the whole thing. And we discover what the problem is, but it's going to be a very repetitive task, and we have to fix all of these entries in a database. Now, you could do it through a number of different ways. And they were talking about needing, we got to take things down. We got to run a job, and we're going to do this and do that. And my dad I remember him telling me this story. He was just like, I was like, really? We don't need to do all that. Hold on one second. Strings together a quick little Linux command, solves the problem in minutes. fixed, out the door, everything's fine. And they were like, "Oh, gee, what are we going to do without you, Rick?" But it was just Linux. It was just knowing Linux. It's a very powerful thing when you can talk to the machine directly.
Without a doubt. It's hard to beat command line.
Yeah.
Every time. See, I mean, this is the enemy right here.
Yes.
The enemy.
And then you get the fancy ones with a lot of extra buttons.
Oh, wow. Yeah, well, I have to admit, you see the optical mouse here.
Yeah.
Obviously, that's not exactly a gamer's choice, but but wow, I hate touching. As soon as my hands come off the keyboard, I feel like I just lost.
It's awful, isn't it? But there's a lot of people who are really, really attached to it, and I think one of the biggest things is that folk are very intimidated by the command line. They see it and the brain turns off. And I know
until they're not. And I know this for a fact because I used to be that guy. Yeah.
And I used to be very intimidated by the command line, and it took me a long time to get comfortable. Yeah. And one of the things that I never had was proper instruction.
Right.
And it took me years of experience and know-how. And at this point now, I've written 3 different Linux courses, whether it's doing some type of Linux instruction along with a Python class, whether it's RH 134 and 124, and now Linux for Absolute Beginners. Every single time I sit down to write one of these courses, I learn something new.
Mm-hmm.
Every time. And I'm still learning something new. It doesn't matter the fact I already have a Linux certification. It doesn't matter that I've already been through it. I'm still learning new things. And you get these eureka moments of, oh, goodness sakes, I could have just done that the whole time.
Oh, yeah.
And then you start combining it with something like GitOps, CI/CD pipelines, managing and operating a Kubernetes cluster.
Which are all Linux in their own right.
They're all Linux. Docker containers running off a Linux platform. Podman 2 in the Red Hat world. It's all Linux. And if everything is running on Linux, the thing that I think people have a hard time realizing is like, well, why don't I just have a GUI? I could click the buttons and isn't that easier? I say, well, here's the problem. The GUI limits what you can do to strictly what the GUI is designed to do. So if there's an operation that you need to perform, making mass changes to a database entries, for example. Great example. If there's something that you need to be able to perform and the GUI doesn't allow you to make that operation, what you'll find yourself doing is sitting there performing the same thing over and over and over again, mouse clicking the whole way through. And I'm sure everyone can remember a time when I had to do something like that. Click here and do it again, click here, do it again, click here, do it again. Man, wouldn't it just be so much better if I could write a bash script or I could write a command that would just do it for me? And the answer is, well, are you on Linux? Yeah, you can, because you could talk directly to the kernel. And when you could do that, there's nothing in your way.
You can automate everything.
Everything.
Yeah, and that suddenly you're a profit center, not a cost center.
Exactly. All right, Stu. There it is.
Well, it's been real.
I think we've talked about everything under the sun, training in Linux.
Yeah. I think we've solved the whole world's, at least Linux, comp training problems.
Well, I want to take time to thank you, and just to remind everybody, be sure to check out alta3.com. You can sign up for the courses there, as well as get on board the Alta 3 Academy. Also, don't forget that we are running Linux for Absolute Beginners beginning on May the 5th through the 9th at 7 o'clock p.m. Eastern Daylight Time through 10 o'clock. If you're brand new to Linux, or maybe you want to sharpen those command line skills, that is the class for you. Only $250. Go ahead and head on over to to InfraOpsGuild.com and go ahead and sign up for that class today. Until then, everybody, thank you so much for hanging out with us. This is the Ctrl-Alt-Discuss podcast, and we'll see you next week on the next one.